The Lincoln Project is a group of former Republicans, and if I'm not mistaken, maybe even some current Republicans who are anti-Trump. And they've been getting, a lot of play recently and a lot of love and adoration, namely from Democratic partisans. So, the problem is, when you're talking about Republicans going after Trump, you have to pause and reflect. How are they going after him? Are they resisting him from the left, or are they resisting him from the right on foreign policy? Are they more hawkish, or are they less hawkish? And of course, when you talk about Democratic partisans, they simply don't care. To them, it's like, whatever, just mutter a couple anti-Trump words. I don't care what the underlying philosophy is. I hate Trump, so I'm with you. That's the way that a lot of Democratic partisan hacks think. Well, obviously on this show, we don't think that way. And I care about the actual issues, so it depends how you're resisting him. Well, this new batch of ads from the Lincoln Project really exposes what they're all about. Because the Republicans who founded it, their main philosophy, their main ideology is actually neoconservatism. So here's their new batch of ads. There's 3 of them here. These are 3 separate ads. And they're all about the so-called bombshell news that Russia is putting a bounty on American soldiers. This is totally unverified. This is from, intelligence officials, anonymous intelligence officials. In other words, probably the same people who told us that Saddam has weapons of mass destruction and Saddam was working with Al-Qaeda, and the people who gave us Russiagate 1.0 are now giving us Russiagate 2.0, and the anti-Trump Republicans are more than happy to continue on with this line of argument and use this logic against him. So let's take a look and then we'll discuss.
Самое важное одобрение, которое получил Дональд Трамп в 2016 году, было не от вашего лидера Сената Митча МакКоннелла, и не от вашего конгрессмена Пола Райана, и не от кого-то из ваших сенаторов-республиканцев, представителей или губернаторов. Нет, самое важное одобрение Дональд Трамп получил в 2016 году от нашего великого вождя Владимира Путина. Наши спецслужбы работали сверхурочно, чтобы избрать товарища Трампа. Мы вели войну против так называемой правды, которую вы, загнивающие американцы, распускали про нашего товарища. Мы манипулировали вашими избирателями, распространяли нашу славную пропаганду и вас, американских собак, натравливали друг на друга. Компания товарища Трампа мудро приняла нашу помощь. Теперь наш мудрый и сильный лидер Владимир Путин еще раз выбрал себе американского союзника Дональда Трампа. И еще раз. И товарищ Трамп с радостью принял помощь матушки России. Еще раз. Поздравляю, товарищ Трамп. Россия благодарит вас за верность и дружбу.
My name is Dan Barkoff. I'm a 2001 United States Naval Academy graduate. I'm an ex-Navy SEAL, currently an emergency room physician, and the founder of Veterans for Responsible Leadership. Months ago, Donald Trump learned that the Russians were paying bounties for dead American soldiers in Afghanistan. He chose to do nothing about it. Any commander-in-chief with a spine would be stomping the living shit out of some Russians right now, diplomatically, economically, or, if necessary, with the sort of asymmetric warfare they're using to send our kids home in body bags. Mr. Trump, you're either a coward who can't stand up to an ex-KGB goon, or you're complicit. Which is it? Donald Trump is unfit to be our commander-in-chief, and that's worse than useless. I'm a pro-life, gun-owning combat veteran, and I can see Trump for what he is, a coward. We need to send this draft dodger back to his golf courses. The lives of our troops depend on it.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
In the last year, flag-draped coffins have returned from Afghanistan. Now we know Vladimir Putin pays a bounty for the murder of American soldiers. Donald Trump knows too, and does nothing. Putin pays the Taliban cash to slaughter our men and women in uniform. And Trump is silent, weak, controlled. Instead of condemnation, he insists Russia be treated as our equal. Instead of retaliation, he invites Putin to America. When Trump tells you he stands by the troops, he's right. Just not our troops.
I'm at a loss for words. If you look at those ads and you don't come to the conclusion that this is neo-McCarthyism, then I don't know what to tell you. Because it wasn't even subtle. It was so over the top. So the first ad, they have the Russian music playing, the Russian, writing on the screen, somebody speaking Russian, and they call Trump Comrade Trump repeatedly. By the way, I don't know if you guys know this, the Soviet Union no longer exists. Russia is not a communist nation. But, again, they're not even masking it, they're not even hiding it, they're not taking off the rough edges. This is like flat out Red Scare McCarthyism. That's what this is. Now, also, think about that first ad where they're just accusing Trump of being this Manchurian candidate whose strings are being pulled by Vladimir Putin. And you have the Russian music and the Russian language and all this stuff. And imagine if there was an ad that accused a president of being controlled by a secret cabal of Jews. How would everybody react to that ad? What would people say if there was an ad that accused a president of being a puppet to a global Jewish conspiracy? What would people say? It would be universal across the board. Everybody would say, oh, so this is a deeply anti-Semitic ad. What, did David Duke make this ad? Did Richard Spencer make this ad? Who made this ad? Was it the Klan? Is that who made this ad? That's what everybody would say. Everybody would say that is xenophobic and bigoted. But when you do it with Russia, nobody says that. Nobody says, hey, wait a second, hold on now. The Russians are pulling the puppet strings of Donald Trump. You got the scary music and the Russian language, and they call him Comrade Trump. Why isn't it xenophobic against Russians to accuse a global Russian conspiracy of secretly controlling the president? I'm asking a serious question. Why is that not considered bigotry? Because it's in vogue. It's fashionable to view Russians as, the puppet master of all evil on the planet right now. At least in Democratic partisan circles it is. So this is, honestly, it's like the Democrats have PTSD from the original Red Scare and McCarthyism Cold War era. And now Democrats are more than happy to flip that dynamic on Republicans, even though the entire dynamic was bogus and xenophobic and stupid from day one. But now, Democrats are using the same tricks against Republicans. And in this case, you have anti-Trump Republicans are using the same Cold War tricks, Red Scare, McCarthyism tactics against Trump. Understand, guys, this is not a defense of Trump. My point is, you have to go after him in substantive ways that are correct and that aren't feeding a maniacal, hawkish, right-wing narrative. And that's what this is. That's what this does. So the second ad, honestly, might be the worst. First one was bad. I think it's deeply xenophobic. The second one might be worse. The second one is, the guy says, he's somebody who was in the U.S. military. He looks like, as Trump would say, right out of Central Casting, this guy, right out of Central Casting. And he says, any commander-in-chief would be stomping the shit out of Russians right now. And then he says, diplomatically, maybe even militarily. And then he says, with asymmetric warfare. Any commander-in-chief would be stomping the shit out of Russians right now with the asymmetric warfare he says that they use against us. We need to use asymmetric warfare against them. And then he says you're either a coward or you're complicit. Look at what they're prodding Trump to do. At the very least, they want more sanctions on Russia. By the way, Russia is already sanctioned to the high heavens. I know partisan Democrats don't like to admit this or don't know about it, but because there was such a hysterical Russia obsession from Democrats all along, Trump has continually added more and more sanctions onto Russia. So they're already sanctioned like crazy. At the very least, this is calling for more sanctions, but in reality, they flat out say it. They want asymmetric warfare. They want Trump to, quote, stomp the shit out of the Russians. And that's the only way that Trump can prove that, no, I'm not, he's not my puppet master. Do you see the incentive that they're setting up? The incentive is this crazy thin-skinned buffoon idiot president needs to be more hawkish, needs to be more bellicose, needs to be more aggressive against another country that has nuclear weapons. Can you see the problem with this now? Like, again, I know there were a lot of people who were skeptical of my take on Russiagate all along. By the way, who was right about that? What happened with the Mueller report? That's right. Nothing came of it. Like I told you, nothing would come of it. But there were a lot of people who heard my commentary and they were like, I don't know if I'm with them, because it was so overwhelming, the nonstop story after story, fake bombshell after fake bombshell. Oh my God, Russia. And then nothing came of it. And so now they got rid of the rough edges and they're back and they're being more plain spoken about it. That's what this is. They're just saying it now. And they want asymmetric warfare against Russia. Is that what you want? Even if you're a Democrat and you look at the Trump era, is this what you want? You think everything would be better if we were just more hawkish against Russia? Is that the policy goal you want? You could have hit Trump on being massively corrupt because he's massively corrupt. You could have hit him on being way too neoconservative in his own respect because he is way too neoconservative and he's escalating with Iran and Venezuela and continuing our wars. Could have hit him on that front. You could have hit him on being a tool for Wall Street because he is a tool for Wall Street. You could have hit him on cutting taxes for the rich because he did cut taxes for the rich. You could have hit him on getting rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau because he did effectively get rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. He took away whatever teeth they had. Could have hit him on all that. They didn't. They hit him on this because they want him to be more aggressive against Russia because they're neocons. They are neocons. So if you're a Democrat and you're praising this stuff, oh, sweet Jesus, I don't even know what to tell you. I mean, at best, you're a sucker. Worst, you're also neoconservative in your own respect. The final ad, they showed the coffins. They said Trump is silent, Trump is weak, Trump is controlled. And then they say, he's not doing any retaliation. He needs to do retaliation. And Trump stands for the troops, just not ours. So this, again, flat out, Manchurian candidate, the puppet of Vladimir Putin doing his bidding. Even though we had a freaking investigation over that idea right there. And you know what they found? Nothing. The only people who went down over Russiagate were people who were in the campaign, and their crimes had nothing to do with Russiagate. It had nothing to do with Russia at all. Here we are. The Lincoln Project. Because, Abraham Lincoln would really want to... Abraham Lincoln would agree with the neoconservative, hawkish foreign policy. That's what, everybody knows that. It's disturbing that this is what's become of our politics. In the Trump era, the Democrats should be crushing on all fronts and should be unanimous in a left-wing message. Instead, you have anti-Trump Republicans and neocons who've infiltrated the Democratic Party, and they're going to get a seat at the table in leadership. You watch. You watch what happens with Joe Biden if/when Joe Biden wins the presidency. Watch who he brings into his administration. Watch. I guarantee you it'll be many people with this philosophy and this ideology. which means if you vote for Trump, you get more war because he's given us more war. If you vote for Biden, you get more war. Quite a democracy we have here.